Why supporting Feeding America is so important. Do It Yourself takes on foodstuffs, and what's next for Humane. For today, Wednesday, December 15th, 2010, this is Food News Today. Good morning. Today's episode is pre-recorded, and instead of a live chat, feel free to email me directly, phil@supermarketguru.com. Food News Today is sponsored by ConAgra Foods, who shares with me the desire to provide the most current, interesting, and unbiased food news. Today's first story is all about hunger and what we can and should be doing to eradicate it here in the U.S. The USDA recently released data suggesting that approximately 15% of all American families have trouble securing enough food. According to the report, Household Food Security in the United States, 50.1 million Americans, including more than 17 million children, lack the means to get enough nutritious food on a regular basis. On top of that, the number of people receiving food stamps in September of this year was 42.9 million. That's up 6 million compared to a year ago. Compared to the 2008 numbers, they're up 50%. Last year, Americans were joining the food stamp program at an average rate of 20,000 a day. In 2010, the rate accelerated 10%. Luckily, we have Corey Reed, Executive Director at ConAgra Foods Foundation, who works closely with Feeding America, the nation's leading domestic hunger relief charity, whose mission it is to feed America's hungry through a nationwide network of member food banks and engage the country in the fight to end hunger. Hi, Corey. Good to see you. Now, the holiday time is unfortunately one of the only times when people really focus on giving in to those in need. What types of hunger relief programs and volunteering efforts can people support year-round?
Well, certainly, Phil, you're absolutely right that this is a time of year when people are really looking to do something different to help people in need. And food banks actually can take help all year round because, hunger is not a seasonal issue. So Feeding America has a network of 205 food banks across the country. That means there are food banks in virtually every state, and then some have multiple food banks in a state. So people can call their food bank and go and do things as basic as sorting food, doing food drives, raising money, because food banks amazingly can turn $1 into multiple meals. The food bank network can turn $1 into 7 meals. And on a local basis, each food bank has a different conversion rate. So there's a lot of things to do, not just during the holidays, but all year round with the food banks.
Corey, what has ConAgra Foods done in the hunger space?
Well, certainly, Phil, hunger has been very much a passionate issue for us at ConAgra Foods. Since 1993, we've partnered with Feeding America, and so we donate on a regular basis almost 1 million meals a month with them. And through our consumer campaign, we're hoping to do an additional 2.5 million meals during that time frame. And we've taken what's called really a venture capital model. So back in the 90s, we actually helped start kids cafes, which are after-school programs, the partnership with a food bank and local agencies, such as a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club. And they're after-school programs where kids can go not only to get tutoring and after-school activities, but also get a meal before they go home, which otherwise they wouldn't get. So I think what we've done is really try to put programs in place. And we worked with Feeding America to help bring those up to scale. And it was something that started at a food bank in Oklahoma City, and we've expanded that across the country.
What have been some of the more impactful programs with Feeding America and your other partners?
But we really want to make it easy for consumers. So I've talked about a lot of our foundation and philanthropic efforts. But coming up in the spring and March, we will have a consumer campaign called Child Hunger Ends Here. And it's really a call to action for people to get involved. This is not a child that's over here or all these children that live in California or Texas or a certain place. These are children right in your own backyard.
Sometimes consumers are hesitant to get involved as they're constantly bombarded with charities asking for more donations, especially during the holidays. What are some ways to get involved and know that you're actually making an impact?
Find ways to get involved, and also, Phil, just spread the word. I think one thing about hunger is people don't realize that 50 million people in this country are what's considered food insecure, meaning they don't have enough access to food on a consistent basis throughout the year. And that includes 17 million children. So part of the issue we have is just raising awareness and letting people know that this is a real issue in the United States.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate your insights and certainly the help from the ConAgra Foods Foundation.
Thank you.
During the holidays, as we're all thinking about ways to give back to our communities, consider this. Children who face hunger are more susceptible to obesity and its harmful health consequences as children and as adults. Undernourished children under the age of 3 cannot learn as much, as fast, or as well. The lack of enough nutritious food impairs a child's ability to concentrate and perform well in school and have more behavioral and emotional problems. They also tend to be more aggressive and anxious. Teens who on a regular basis do not get enough to eat are more likely to be suspended from school and have difficulty in getting along with other kids. What does Home Depot have in common with a butcher? Well, it's all about do-it-yourself these days. Now, I'm a big proponent of getting to know your food, whether it's getting back in the kitchen, gardening, or just reading labels in the supermarket to understand where the food was produced. These kinds of efforts help us truly appreciate our food and our meals, and may very well be one of the keys in getting America's weight problem under control. Some of the coolest do-it-yourself classes that seriously help us get to know our foods include roasting our own coffee beans at home from green unroasted coffee beans, all the way up to butchering your own meats. In Portland, New York, and San Francisco, it seems to be that the trend is starting once again and getting ahead of the curve. In Portland, you can visit Mr. Green Bean or Portland Roasting to learn just how to roast your own beans. Apparently, once you've enjoyed fresh roasted beans, it's hard going back. In fact, while I haven't roasted my own beans, I can tell you, being in factories that roast the beans, there's nothing like it. It's fabulous, both in aroma and in flavor. But for those who really want some hands-on action, think about this. Do-it-yourself butcher classes. Yep, last year we predicted the return of the butcher and that people would start visiting their local butchers again. Well, here's the next evolution that we couldn't even predict. From start to finish, and yes, everything in between, students are enrolling in do-it-yourself butchering classes, and they're exposed to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Certainly not a class for the weak stomach, but hey, after you've butchered your first carcass, you can go to a sausage making class. Urban Kitchen in San Francisco, of course, holds affordable single-purpose classes and workshops that are themed around the do-it-yourself slow food concept. Classes incorporate hands-on learning with instruction by area experts. Topics include food preservation, brewing kombucha, making tofu, making cheese, jam, pesto, even pickles, and there's more than that. From butchering to humane, we've discussed the importance of transparency in food production as it relates to food safety, traceability, sustainability, and more. Most recently, we predicted that humane will replace other consumer desires, including organics, when shopping for animal products, yet adding another level to a transparent food system. Now, the term humane refers to animal welfare standards that generally allow animals ready access to fresh water and a diet that maintains health and vigor, an appropriate environment including shelter and a comfortable resting area, also prevention or rapid treatment of disease or injury, and the freedom to express normal behaviors. Humane Certified covers dairy to buffalo, to chicken and farms which are audited by independent third-party certifiers. What food retailers and suppliers need to employ are standard rating systems across the board to ensure that humane products are not only easily identifiable, but the ratings themselves are easily understood by consumers. There's a rating system currently for egg-laying hens, where cage-free is the standard, happy medium. The rating system is based on a 2006 study from the Netherlands Journal of Animal Science, which evaluated the welfare of poultry production systems for laying hens and reviewed 22 production systems that ranged from cage systems to barn, aviary, and organic systems. But what about the rating systems for other species, especially beef and sow, as well as broiler chickens? We've invited Matt Prescott, the Director of Corporate Outreach from the Humane Society, to help us fully understand the issues. Hi, Matt. Thanks for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. I'm pleased to be here virtually.
Great. Let's get to our first question. Why don't humane rating systems exist for other species?
There are other rating systems for example, cattle or for pigs or for chickens or turkeys. Rating systems such as animal welfare approved or humane certified. And those rating systems cover more species, though for the average consumer in the average grocery store, the best thing to look for on a carton of eggs, for example, would be the cage-free label.
So why now and not 10 years ago? What's causing consumers to be more interested in where their foods are coming from today?
Well, certainly we've seen a dramatic rise in news coverage of these issues. The New York Times editorialized just a few months ago against the confinement of farm animals, saying that they hope, as an editorial board, that it'll be a short-lived anomaly in modern farming. Time magazine has run multiple cover articles on farm animal abuse, citing specifically the confinement of hens in cages and other similar issues. Oprah Winfrey dedicated an entire episode of her show to talking about how pigs and chickens are confined in cages and crates on factory farms.
How do you handle those who believe groups similar to the Humane Society's intention is to increase animal welfare standards are ultimately trying to turn just everyone into vegetarians or vegans?
The Humane Society is a big tent organization. We have 11 million supporters, which is roughly 1 in every 28 Americans. We were ranked as having the 10th strongest brand image of any nonprofit organization in the country. And the reason for that success is because we have mainstream values. No Americans want animals to suffer, even if they're going to eat those animals. You'd find very few people that think it's okay to abuse animals in the way that factory farms today abuse them. And as an organization, our goal is simply to improve conditions for animals by eliminating the very worst practices that today are the norm, but hopefully tomorrow won't be.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
That's a lot for retailers, consumers, and those who communicate issues to consider. But it sounds like there have been some improvements along the way. Clearly an issue consumers care deeply about and are willing to pay more for. Humane should be top of mind for food retailers. Retailers, including Whole Foods, Super Value, and Safeway, have pledged to increase their standards for animal welfare when choosing suppliers. Chicago's Pog Mahone's is the very first restaurant in the city to be serving animal welfare approved American grass-fed beef. And the New York Burger Company, with 3 locations in New York City, recently announced that they're serving beef and chicken that are now certified humane raised and handled exclusively. For Food News Today, I'm Phil Lempert. Next week's story list will be emailed to you next Tuesday morning. If you have a colleague who would like to also receive our advanced email, please send them to foodnewstoday.com to sign up. Thanks for joining us.